So great, I don't have a mark on my face, and I upset Sonny Liston, and I just turned 22 years old. I must be the greatest. I told the world, I talk to God every day. The God's with the king, no matter you're just the same. I shook up the world. I shook up the world. I shook up the world. I shook up the world.
I said, can I be a legend? Search your soul and answer me this question. Do you think I have what it takes to be great, but still be humble and learn from my mistakes? Shit.
Good night, everyone, and welcome back to your favorite sports show. If you have been on all of our platforms, you know what time it is, and it is a big one. None other than Game 1 of the NBA Finals. My own Phoenix Suns versus some other team based in Wisconsin. I don't know who that is. Maybe over the shoulder.
Hold on. Should I put up a wide shot just so that they would know who we're talking about? Because
No.
Oh, look at that! Oh, look at that! Oh,
Yes, indeed. It is my Phoenix Suns against my home state team, the Milwaukee Bucks, Game 1 of these NBA Finals. But before we go further into this huge tip-off show, let me welcome guests. I mean, these guys are family by now. Y'all know my guy, Dwayne Marcus of the Goat Talk podcast. What is up, Dwayne?
What's up, Justin? What's up? What's up?
We'll get to you just shortly.
Oh, dear.
And he is no stranger to this show, Miles Johnson of the Real Talk with MJ. What is going on, MJ?
How's it going, Justin? I'm happy to be on here.
man.
And I'm happy to be in here. So before we really get into the tip-off,
Wait, what about me?
everyone knows you. So sorry.
The one and
My
only.
fellow co-host, the guy who makes the show run, his name may not be in the title, but he really is the heart, the soul, and everything of this show.
Okay, there, making me
Neil
blush.
Hoyt. His Lakers are not here, but I'm not ribbing him tonight. I'm ribbing a certain someone who we had a running bet with that told me if a certain player were to make it to the NBA
Oh
Finals,
dear.
he would wear his jersey for, I don't know, the rest of the year. No, I didn't want Dwayne to have to rush down to any sports store that he had. I don't know if he has a Modell's in this area. I think that's only New York. But I didn't want him to have to spend money. But we did say he would come on this show and sing Giannis Antetokounmpo's praises. So take it away, Dwayne Marcus.
Wait, hold on. Let's get a big, nice yes. Let's get.
Well,
Let's get him front and center.
First of all, the words that I'm about to say out of my mouth, I do not believe at all. I don't stand by them. I'll never say them again in my life. But a bet's a bet, and I was raised well enough to know that I'm supposed to be a man of my word. So, I have once again shoved my size 13 foot in my mouth. The Bucks are in the finals, and I am contractually obligated to say that I was wrong about Giannis Antetokounmpo, and that Giannis deserves all the accolades and all the praises. Now that I have gotten rid of my contractual obligations, I just have to say, for the record, I don't believe any of that. Giannis still stinks. I still think he's trash. And if the Bucks win the finals without Giannis, I'll never let that go. I will come on this show every chance I get and remind Justin that the Milwaukee Bucks won the NBA Finals without the two-time MVP and former League Defensive Player of the Year. I've got more crap on Giannis. I've got an hour's worth of crap on Giannis. So
We do.
trust me.
We have a show, so don't worry.
We've got an entire show of crap on Giannis.
Nope.
This will be fun. Trust me.
Don't waste your breath because we do have an entire show. So let's get into it. One team has not been to the NBA Finals since 1993 and never won it before at all. The other has not been here since 1974, last winning in 1971. So let's start with Miles. With all of this said, and we know the star power on both sides, what is the biggest storyline for you heading into Game 1 of these finals, which is set to tip off in less than 3 hours?
Biggest story is whether or not Giannis is going to play or not. Now, I heard it was a game time decision on whether or not he'll play in game 1, But honestly, I don't think he should play game 1 or game 2. I think that they should just rest him game 1 and game 2, let him play game 3, and just, you know what? Honestly, let's just see if Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday can win a game on the road. If they can, it's great. If they can't, I mean, they can still defend home court, at home, with that Bucks crowd. So I would say that the biggest story is the two-time MVP Giannis, because if he is not 100%, or if he's on one leg, or if he's hobbled, I just don't think the Bucks have any chance at all of winning this series at all. So I would say that Giannis is the biggest story in this series.
So before I head over to you, Neil, I think the viewers should know by now that he injured that left knee going up for a block. I think, was it game 4 of game 4 of the Eastern Conference Final in Atlanta. No, he's missed, as we all know, the last 2 games of the series. Initially, he was supposed to be ruled completely out of game 1, but we're hearing from Malika Andrews that his status moved from doubtful to questionable for game 1. So the question is, again, Neil, heading to you, what is the biggest storyline for you heading into game 1 of these finals?
Well, I gotta agree with Miles, right? Like, the biggest storyline is Giannis Antetokounmpo, and by extension, can Chris Middleton and the Milwaukee Bucks kind of steal one from the Phoenix Suns in these first 2 games? Now, as we know, Giannis, while he is not a closer for the Milwaukee Bucks, he definitely is the engine that will get you to the top of the mountain. Well, get you 3/4 to the mountain top. So, to me, I think the biggest. I love it. Look at doing that. But yeah, I think Giannis's health and the Bucks, Chris Middleton led Bucks, if he can't go and they have to go without him, it would be very interesting to see, one, how they come out in these first 2 games, and 2, how the Suns adjust to them in these first 2 games, right? Because it is obvious that he will come back at some point, right? Unless we get some news that is completely devastating, he will come back. So it's just about the chess match between the coaches and the organizations on how they're gonna adjust from playing with adjusting to defending without Giannis Antetokounmpo, and then going into having him in the rotation. So it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting because the Bucks without Giannis is a much different team. Are they a potent enough team to win a game, maybe even 2 against the Phoenix Suns? We gotta see. But to me, that is definitely the biggest storyline, without a doubt.
So, Dwayne, is there any chance that you disagree with Neil and Miles that there is another storyline bigger than the health of 2-time MVP, former Defensive Player of the Year, also NBA All-First Defensive Player? We can go on and on and on. But is there?
Are you? You don't have to ramble off. Here's what I say. I would say that while I agree with these 2 guys, I want to take it a step. I think that Giannis's availability for game 1 is really just a subset in what has been a larger storyline throughout the course of the postseason, which has been injury. I mean, you look at the Western Conference, the Lakers were without Anthony Davis in the first round. The Suns dispatched them in 6. And then the Nuggets were without Jamal Murray in the second round. And despite the fact that they, were able to, get this far without him, the Suns dispatched them in 4. And then, of course, the Clippers were without Kawhi Leonard, and the Suns dispatched them in 6 to get here. And then on the Eastern Conference side of things, of course, the Nets were without Kyrie Irving, and James Harden was basically there for a decoy. He shouldn't have been there for the rest of that series anyway. And the Hawks were without Trae Young, really for those last 2 games of the series, despite the fact that he did play. In what I think was game 6, he wasn't useful at all in that game, really just there as a decoy as well. So I think the overarching storyline is really just injury. Miles and I had this conversation the other day on his show about whether or not the legitimacy of this championship should be held in question because of all these injuries. And very similar to last year, where I said that the bubble wasn't a reason to take anything away from the eventual champion Lakers, who will win the chip. There's no reason why the Bucks or the Suns should have anything taken away with them because of injury. Because at the end of the day, injury or no injury, you still have to go out there. You still have to do your job. You still have to win 4 of 7 games to make it to the next round. And so even though, of course, the Lakers with Anthony Davis, that's obviously a tougher series than without him. Same can be said for the Nuggets and the Clippers. But again, the Suns despite that, still have to go out and they still have to do their job. They still have to win those 4 games, and they did. Same thing for the Bucks. The Bucks dominated the Heat in the first round. They still had to go out there and they had to win 4 of 7 games against the Nets. Still had to win 4 of 7 games against the Hawks. So the biggest storyline is injury. It just so happens that Giannis is injured, and
just you can see the glee. You can see the glee. Look at that. Oh.
On a personal note, I want Giannis to get better. On a strictly basketball level, I would love nothing more than for the Bucks to win Game 1 without Giannis. The Bucks are, by the way, in the last 2 postseasons, undefeated when Giannis doesn't step foot on the floor. By the way.
So I'll say this, like agreeing with everyone. I mean, it just has to be the health of Giannis Antetokounmpo. He is, and regardless of what Dwayne Marcus would want to tell you, he is indeed the best player in this entire series. And I think it hinges on him. Yes, 2-time MVP. None of the players, unless, my math is correct, and I kind of forgotten basketball, I don't think any other player in this entire series has a single MVP to this name, and he has 2. Neither does anyone else have a single Defensive Player of the Year, and he has 1. So I will have to say that he is the best player in this entire series, and it really does hinge on his health. Which brings me to the perfect segue, and I'm going to start you, Neil. Is there a chance, and just not Game 1 tonight, but can the Bucks, and Dwayne did allude to it just now because they are unbeaten in the postseason when Giannis does not play, can Milwaukee actually win this series without Giannis Antetokounmpo or with him not even fully healthy?
No, I think if you look at it, the Bucks need Giannis Antetokounmpo because this is the NBA Finals, right? And at the end of the day, as much as we want to say that the Bucks are capable of playing without Giannis, Chris Middleton is a very capable player. The Bucks do have many bodies that they can throw at DeAndre Ayton, Jay Crowder, and everything like that. They have the play of Drew Holiday, who may make it very difficult for Chris Paul and any other wing player, maybe even guarding against Devin Booker if Coach Bud feels kind of froggy. But I think that it would be interesting, but Giannis has to play because having Giannis Antetokounmpo on the court with all the other guys makes it a much difficult task because even though he can't shoot outside the paint, him going to the ring is what you want. You want to put that pressure on the Ayton. You want to put pressure on Saric. You want to put pressure on your bigs, on the Suns' bigs. So Giannis, to me, kind of keeps the game honest from a fouling standpoint and from a standpoint of defensive play down low and ring protection for the Suns. And you have to be kind of disciplined, right? You have to be kind of disciplined to know when to make your switches, when to contest jumpers, especially from Giannis. And you have to kind of be disciplined all round. Giannis brings a completely different dimension to it. Granted, he can't shoot, but he can hit that one-off jumper. He can make you at least contemplate coming up and step into him. And then there's obviously the issue of his foul shooting. Will that play into the Suns' benefit late in games with all of the fouling and him going to the line and him not being a very good free throw shooter? So the Bucks need him. I mean, without a doubt, he is a force. He is the Greek Freak for a reason. He is a 2-time MVP reason. He defensively, he is amazing. You need his length, his size, his just sheer ability to get to the ring in this game just to make Phoenix have that another variable that they got kind of adjust to as the series goes on.
Should I even have to ask Dwayne? I think I should just go to Miles, but I feel just because I can't bring him on the show and not ask him. So, Mr. Dwayne Marcus, can the Bucks win this series and not just Game 1 without Giannis, or even if he's not 100%?
I mean, yeah, and I'm not just saying that because I don't like Giannis. I'm saying that because you have to look.
Of course not.
I mean, you have to look at who they have on the team. They've got Chris Middleton, they've got Drew Holiday, they've got Brook Lopez. They have, I would say, a very solid supporting cast. I think, and this is going to come as a shock to Justin because I'm going to compliment the Bucks, but I would say of all the teams in the league that have superstars, like if you strip the superstars away and just look at the cast, so like if you take Anthony Davis and LeBron James off the Lakers, for example, what is that team? Nothing really. You're not even looking at that team as a play-in team, and it's you can take Giannis Antetokounmpo off of the Bucks, and this Bucks team could still make the playoffs. Would they be a number 2 seed? No. But would they be a playoff team in the Eastern Conference? Yeah. And so when I look at it from that regard, look, of course, Giannis, while I won't go as far as Justin did and say he's the best player in the series, Giannis is obviously the best player on this Milwaukee Bucks team. And as the Bucks go, as Giannis goes, the Bucks go. But again, when you look at the supporting cast, and you look at what they did in the last 2 games against Atlanta, I mean, Middleton had, he played 43 minutes in those 2 games on average. He averaged 29, 9, and 8 on 50, 37, and 90. You look at Jrue Holiday, he had played over 40 minutes. He averaged 26, 8, and 11 on 46, 35, and 57. Like, they have a cast that can at least hang with the Suns. And the other thing, too, is these 2 teams, interestingly enough, these 2 teams were 2 of the best teams in the league throughout the course of the regular season at home. And if this is just going to come down to the Bucks stealing 1 game on the road, that game could very well be tonight. So if you're in a situation like, if I'm going to bet my money, which I'm not betting anything with Justin ever again, ever, unless it's football. But like, if I'm going to bet anything, I would bet that the Bucks could steal a game in Phoenix before Phoenix could steal a game in Milwaukee. It's just very hard to beat Milwaukee in their home, at home. So yeah, I think the Bucks could do it. Honest, it'd be a tall task. It would take perfect basketball from the supporting cast. It would take perfect coaching from Coach Bud, which the 4 of us can all agree that's not happening. So I mean, it's possible. I think the things that would have to happen for the Bucks to win the chip without Giannis, I think is too much. So it won't happen, but it could.
Miles, same question. Is there a chance that the Bucks steal this series if Giannis Antetokounmpo is not healthy or does not play?
No chance at all. No chance. I mean, I heard people say that the Bucks they're possibly better without Giannis. I mean, that is baloney. Heck no. I mean, Giannis, I'm not the biggest fan of Giannis, but I'll give him his respect. He's still a 2-time MVP, and this team is gonna miss him a lot. Now, I'm going off what Marcus said. I don't think that they can beat them, but it's not like the Suns are like this juggernaut team. Now they still have a chance. I give them like the same chance, or maybe a slighter, maybe not as much of a chance because the Clippers have a better coach with Ty Lue. But I would say they have around the same the same chance as the Clippers did. I mean, the Clippers, they got 2 games off the Suns without Kawhi Leonard, and I think that the Bucks, it's not out of the realm of possibility that they can get a game from the Suns. So I would say that in terms of the whole entire series, there's no way that the Bucks can beat the Suns. But in a game, I could see the Bucks getting either a game 1 or a game 2, especially with the way Chris Middleton has been playing in game 6 against the Hawks. He put up 32 points. Jrue Holiday in that game 6, he put up 27 points, almost a triple-double. Continue to be all-stars, continue to live up to to their potential. I could definitely see the Bucks, at least get a game. But in terms of the entire series, it's no way that you can win a series without your best player in Giannis.
So I am not entitled, or I'm not forced to say this just because I am a Wisconsin native, no. But yeah, the Bucks supporting cast, as Dwayne Marcus kind of alluded to, they're pretty good. Like, if you strip Giannis away, this is a good team. You still have Brook Lopez. You still have 2 All-Stars in Jrue Holiday and Chris Middleton, for whatever it's worth. And again, we saw recent history. This team just closed out Atlanta without Giannis. That being said, the Phoenix Suns are not the Atlanta Falcons. 1, our superstar or superstars are not hurt or hobbled. And 2, the reality is, when you look at this team top to bottom, there are really no glaring weaknesses. This team plays offense well. It shoots well. They score from every single position. DeAndre Ayton, I'm not a huge fan of, but it's come around this postseason. You can't leave, where name's failing me right now, but you can't leave Mikal Bridges, nor can you leave Jay Crowder open from beyond the arc. Devin Booker and Chris Paul are legit superstars. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Then they have a very good supporting cast. And their coach, like Monty Williams, was robbed of Coach of the Year. I think we all can accept and agree with that. This team has no real weaknesses. There's no injury to anyone. They can't afford to have Giannis not play a game or not come back at some stage. Because reality is that we can match up. And even with Giannis playing this series or during the regular season, if memory serves me correct, we swept them. So, like, they're going to need Giannis to play at some point. For me, personally, I may not play him in game one. Hope to steal game one and rest him until I can play game three. But at some stage, Giannis is going to play because Dwayne didn't mention this point. Phoenix is really good on the road. Like, to the point where they have closed every single series on the road just far. And also, if memory serves me correct, they had the best road record this season. You are going to need, even if you steal a game at Phoenix, you are going to need Giannis in the back half of the series because you are not closing out Phoenix with Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday without Giannis Antetokounmpo. Because reality is that man, drives defensive focuses. If you, for lack of better terms, like you have to key on stopping this guy. You have to wall up your entire paint with 2 or 3 defenders, or he will score on you. And the reality is, we don't really match up that well with Giannis. Our, primary defender is probably going to have to be DeAndre Ayton, simply because I want to say Jay Crowder is just too short to match up with Giannis. If Giannis was Kevin Durant, fine. But Giannis is not going to take outside jumpers against a man that's 6 inches shorter than him. Yeah. I'm going to go, this team can, as Miles said, can win a game or two. But without Giannis for a long stretch, especially given how good Phoenix is on the road and how good that home crowd is, they're going to need Giannis to come back at some stage. Which gives me the perfect segue again. We just mentioned Giannis, who is a 2-time MVP, former Defensive Player of the Year, who has never wanted to gotten this far. And then on the opposite side, Chris Paul has been in the league for 16 seasons, and this too is his first ever finals appearance. I'll start with you, Neil. Who do you think is under more pressure to win it all? TP3 or the Greek Freak?
In my opinion, I think it is CP3, right? Because simply he has been great since he came in the league. He has been what they call a point guard. His legacy is just missing that one piece. I know that a big criticism of his was he was never able to get out of the second round. He was never able to make it to a conference final. Now he's in the finals, right? He has a young team. He did not, find a loophole or jerry the system to get a super team. He literally paid his dues, bided his time, and went to a place where he could have made the team better. He's a veteran player. He's a great player, high IQ, and he is essentially mentoring hungry young players to take that next step and become NBA champions, right? So Giannis, to me, Giannis has a lot to work on his game. Giannis, he is rather young compared to Chris Paul, and he does have deficiencies in his game. He Paul said it. He's a jumper away. If he can get a consistent jumper, even if it's just a mid range, he would be scary. If he can make people respect the 3-point shot, at least make them think, okay, I need to get up, or I shouldn't go under the screen. Like those are things that Giannis needs to work on. So he's not quite there yet, but Chris Paul is complete. When you look at his mid range, when you look at his three, when you look at his passing ability, when you look at his finishing ability, when you look at him just making the right plays defensively, getting into his players to make them better, because it's not just passing the ball, it's just not shooting the ball, it's just not in the offensive schemes. It is making sure to hold his teammates accountable and make sure that the coaches' plays are executed on the floor and everybody keep their head up. They're well motivated to get the ball where they want it. They're not missing defensive assignments. They're not missing cuts. We've seen the footage of him just barking at players on offense for not screening a particular way or not making a route off some screens or doing a back cut or whatever, or even cutting to the basket. So, he's really in Aiton's ear. He's really, well, not really in Devin Booker's ear, but in the younger players like Mikal Bridges, Cameron Payne, he really is in their ear. So to have all of that and him come this far, because he has more years behind him than in front of him, it really would cement his legacy if he were to become an NBA champion. I think that would solidify almost perfect, stellar career because he was in Lob City. That was pretty great. He was in New Orleans, which, he had a good stint there. We saw what he did last season with Oklahoma and taking them as far as they could go. No one thought they would be where they were. No one this year thought that they would be in the NBA Finals. So Chris Paul is the difference maker, and he has the accolades, he has the playmaking ability, and he has the teammate and camaraderie gene in him. Just missing that chip. If you get that NBA championship out the way, his legacy and his career would be, I would say, near perfect.
I want to go to Dwayne, but no, I'm going to go Miles because I almost know what Dwayne is going to say here. So, Miles, who is under more pressure to win the title here? CP3 or Giannis Antetokounmpo?
I'm going to have to say CP3. I mean, he's 36 years old in his 13th year in the league. I mean, this is his best chance ever. You can't bank on LeBron, AD being injured. You can't bank on Kevin Durant, the Nets not going to the finals again. You can't bank on Jamal Murray. Or how about Kawhi Leonard and all those guys being injured again? And I just think that this year in his 13th season is his best chance in his entire career to get a chip, and he's got to maximize this opportunity. Now there's this talk about top 5 point guards is Chris Paul in that conversation. Well, if he wins a title in this year, if he gets especially if he gets to the Finals MVP, but even if he wins a title, I feel like he cements himself as a top 5 point guard, puts himself over guys like Stockton, guys like Steve Nash, guys like guys like Jason Kidd as well. I feel like he puts himself at that in that top 5 position. So I think he has the most to gain in this as well. But guys like Giannis, I mean, he's only 26 years old. If he loses this, I mean, it's not the end of the world. It kind of reminds me of LeBron when he had his first finals. I mean, even though he lost, it's not like the end of the world. He still has a lot of time left to to win championships and all that. So I would say Chris Paul is under the most pressure because if he is not delivering in this finals, I simply just don't think that he's gonna win a ring in his career. So I would say CP3 and Giannis. He has a lot of time left in his career for sure.
So, Dwayne, is there any possibility that you're not going to say Giannis Antetokounmpo? Who is under more pressure between the two stars?
I am going to say Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Shocker.
Oh, that's fine. I just want to say for a second. Miles said that Giannis. This is a similar situation to when LeBron was in his first finals, and to that point, I would like to respectfully disagree. When you look at where LeBron was at that point in time and who he was facing, there wasn't a snowball's chance in hell that LeBron James with that Cavs team was beating those San Antonio Spurs that year. There wasn't anybody outside of Cleveland, Ohio. They won Cincinnati, Toledo. There wasn't anybody outside of the city of Cincinnati, Cleveland, Ohio, in the country, let alone the world, that thought that the Cavs had a fighting chance to beat the Spurs that season. We're looking at Giannis Antetokounmpo with a team that has, talent that is all-star talent. When you look at a guy like a Chris Middleton and a guy like a Drew Holiday, those are guys that when they're on and when they're playing at their best, those are all-stars. So is there more pressure on CP3 or Giannis? It's Giannis. I haven't heard anyone ever, correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't heard anyone ever, and I'd say over the last 3-year stretch, even look at Giannis and have any type of discussion about being anywhere amongst the top 10 ever at his position, ever. Chris Paul, without a ring, without a Finals MVP, without even a regular season MVP, without even getting past the second round, as Neil alluded to, is in discussions right now without even having played in the finals yet as potentially being a top 7-ish point guard of all time. CP3's legacy is set. Ring or no ring, CP3 will always be known as the guy that went to a team that couldn't get there and got them there. You look at the Hornets. You look at when he was drafted in New Orleans, increased the winning percentage from before he was there to after he was there. You look at the Rockets, even though the Rockets were, very good and seemed to be the team that could get past the Warriors, the one thing they needed was Chris Paul. And if it weren't for 2 untimely injuries in back-to-back seasons, the Rockets could have won 2 chips while CP3 was in Houston. Even when you look at his time in OKC, No one thought that OKC was going to even make the playoffs. Everyone thought OKC was going to be a lottery team after Russ left OKC to go to Houston. He led them to the playoffs. Even now, again, 10 years of not even making it to the playoffs, a disappointing 8-0 stretch in the bubble, not even making it to the playoffs last season for the Suns, for CP3 to come to Phoenix and lead this team to the NBA Finals. That is Chris Paul's legacy. We're looking at a guy in Giannis Antetokounmpo, a 2-time MVP, a defensive player of the year, 5-time All-Star, 5-time All-NBA, 4-time All-Defense. He was all-rookie team. He averaging 21, 9, and 5 on 53, 29, and 72 in his career. He's been to the playoffs 6 times in 8 seasons. He is considering himself to be one of the best players on the planet. He's dispatched of Kevin Durant. He doesn't have to go through LeBron James. He didn't have to go through Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, and the 76ers. This is the same way that you can't bank on CP3 and the Suns to get back to the finals because you can't bet that Anthony Davis and Jamal Murray and Kawhi Leonard will be out for the West. You can't guarantee that Kyrie Irving and James Harden won't get it together with Kevin Durant in Brooklyn. You can't bet that the Hawks, won't get it together, that the Knicks won't be back. This is Giannis Antetokounmpo's chance to get a ring without having any type of heavy competition whatsoever. The pressure's on Giannis, and if Giannis can't get a ring now, I don't know if he ever will. I just don't, because I don't. Look, and that's not me hating on Giannis. That's just me looking at it. The East is obviously a weaker conference relative to the West, but the East is still tough. We just, and me and Miles talked about this earlier. The episode will be out in about an hour. Check it out. The Hawks are going to be back. This was a Cinderella run, but the Hawks with Nate McMillan, with that team, are going to be back. The Wizards, as much as, the Wizards haven't been that great over the last couple of years, the Wizards are getting better. The Knicks have been getting better. Of course, you have to look at the 76ers and the Nets of the world. The Eastern Conference, while it's not as strong as the West, is still a very competitive conference where anything can happen. Typically in the West, you pretty much know who's coming out of the West. It's always a toss-up with the East. It just always is. If Giannis can't win a ring this season, I don't think he ever will. You're welcome.
So I'm hearing you, Dwayne, right? And I agree with some points. This is a 2-time MVP, a former defensive player of the year. And, he has a relatively easy path to the finals because of the injuries to the Brooklyn Nets. That being said, I have to agree with Miles and Neil because Giannis Antetokounmpo is 26 years old. Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton are signed through long-term for the foreseeable future. That team is not going to get significantly worse anytime soon. And then when you look at the East, and sorry about this, Miles, but the rest of the East, the only competition they're going to have going forward is really Brooklyn. Because at some stage, and Miles may not want to admit this, they are going to move on from Ben Simmons, and we don't know if that means the 76ers are going to get any better because of it. Say what you want about Ben Simmons, he is a problem on offense, but this is still a 2-time All-Star who is, basically defensive player of the year, depending on the voting or how you see it. You don't know if Philadelphia is going to get better, and can you bank on the health of Joel Embiid? History has shown us no. Then you look at Boston. Boston is getting worse and worse by the minute. By the minute, this team is getting worse and worse. I have no faith in New York attracting free agents to get them better or their draft process, because how do you not draft Tyrese Halliburton? I have no idea. When you look, Atlanta is still another All-Star away from contending, because we can talk. But again, Philadelphia is injured, as in Joel Embiid, and that's the reason why they got their healthy Joel Embiid with a decent coach. Sorry about that, Doc Rivers. And Philadelphia is in the Eastern Conference Finals and not Atlanta. Atlanta's not going to beat anybody in the East with just Trae Young. I don't care what people tell me. Kevin Huerter is not good enough to be your second best player. Neither is Bojan Bogdanovic. Neither is Clint Capella. And who knows if John Collins is going to be there after when we're done? Because I think John Collins is gone. So the reality is the Eastern Conference is extremely weak outside of Brooklyn. When you look at the other side, right? And this is not to disparage my own team, but as Miles correctly said, we can't bank on maybe with Anthony Davis, you can. But LeBron James doesn't have a history of getting injured. Kawhi Leonard got hurt. We benefited from the injury as well to Jamal Murray. And then when those players become healthy, we still then have to deal with Utah Jazz. We still have to deal with the Warriors when Klay Thompson returns. That is a loaded Western Conference. CP3 is 36. Do we see a scenario where CP3 actually gets better from here? He is closer to the end than he is to the beginning. I am not saying that Phoenix is only here because of injuries, because the reality is every team needs luck to get here. Like, you are going to survive other teams' injuries while hoping your team doesn't get injured as well. But this is a very, very fortunate run. And I don't know CP3 going on 37 or going on 38 can hope for this path once again. I have to say that this is his best chance at winning a title. And if he doesn't win it this season, I am not sure that unless he goes somewhere else in free agency, which unlikely because Robert Sarver has already said he's going to pay him that 3-year, $100 million contract he's looking for. I don't know if CP3 can lead Phoenix again back to the finals next year or go somewhere else and get this relative good health to win again. You wanted to say something, Dwayne?
Yeah, just before. Look, I'm not saying that the Hawks are going to like be in the finals next season or anything like that. No, but what I am saying is, I mean, you have to look at the series against in these Eastern Conference Finals series, and let's just be honest. Like, if and this is, you know, obviously you can kind of play the if game here, but I think this is a legitimate if. If Trae Young doesn't step on the ref's foot, are we looking at a situation? Like, is it completely out of the realm of possibility to think that the Hawks would have beat the Bucks in that series? No. And what I'm saying is, well, I'm not saying that next season, like the Knicks and the Hawks and the Wizards are going to be, you know, legitimate title contenders. What I am saying, though, is that in the Eastern Conference, we've seen that, like, literally anything can happen. Like, and to your point about the 76ers, I'll just say that even though Joel Embiid was hobbled, he was still minute by minute throughout the course of the 76ers run, he was still minute by minute the most efficient player in the postseason from the time the postseason started until the time the 76ers were eliminated from the playoffs. And so, I mean, look, do you want to, you know, you can label this as Giannis slander if you'd like, because it's coming from me. Anything I say about Giannis, it has shoddy credibility at best. That's fine. But the point I'm making, though, is that when you're looking at the Western Conference, I would say that for all the same reasons why it's not a guarantee that CP3 won't win a chip next season, all those same reasons you could apply to Giannis, because at the end of the day, he's going to have to face one of these Western Conference teams, whether it's LeBron James and the Lakers, whether it's Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets, whether it's Kawhi and the Clippers, you know, whether it's the Splash Brothers and Golden State. He's going to have to, should he get out of the East, face one of those teams. Do I think that Giannis could take down, you know, Steph and Clay or LeBron and AD? I mean, no. Could he take down the Clippers? Probably not. Could he take down the Nuggets? I'd give him a fighting chance. So, look, I'm not me saying that Giannis is under the most pressure. Of course, it's like obvious because I don't like the guy. But I mean, I think you just have to look at this from the standpoint of Giannis doesn't have a legacy yet. Like, Giannis is the only guy, with an exception of James Harden and Russell Westbrook in the last like 5 to 10 years, that's like won MVP and also doesn't have a ring to go with it. So, and Giannis is in a position to do it. And so he should do it. And that's kind of like what it is. Like, you know, you look at LeBron's won MVP in the last 10 years. He has a ring. He's got 2 rings in the last 2 years to show for it. KD also has 2 rings to go with his MVPs. Steph has 3 to go with his MVPs. So, you know, so the 3 guys that have won MVP in the last 10 years and don't have a ring are Giannis, James Harden, and Russell Westbrook. The only guy that has a chance to get a ring right now is Giannis Antetokounmpo. So there's no reason why he can't close the deal, even if he misses the first 2 games of the series, and just do it.
I think point taken. Go ahead, Miles.
Yeah, let me say one thing. With LeBron, when he lost in 2011, he was 0-2 in the finals. People thought, you know, he still had a lot. Now he's a 4-time MVP. Oh, now he's a 4-time champ, a 4-time Finals MVP. So guys like KD, they're really gonna be I see KD having 3 years, 4 years at most at this at an elite level. But guys like LeBron, Steph, KD, a lot of these guys in 5 years, they're either going to be out of the league or, you know, at the end. A lot of these guys are at the end, right? Right now, Giannis is 26. I mean, nobody really thought the Bucks, at the beginning of this season would be in the finals right now. So the fact that he can get a final, that he can get a ring, at 26 years old. I mean, it's like if he loses, and plus he's already injured too. So it's like I don't see too much pressure on him. But I would say, he has a way more time because we see the guys like again like KD, LeBron, all these other guys that are 30 plus that are that in 5 years are gonna be out of the league. So and once those guys are out, it's gonna be Giannis's league. So I just think Chris Paul, he has that pressure on him to really get a ring this season.
So you want slander days?
Oh dear.
Well, I've got slander for you now. And this is probably my favorite segment of this show. Who I think should not be around next season is none other than the Bucks coach, Mike Budenholzer. So, Miles, I'm going to quickly start with you, and I'll keep this segment short. If the Bucks do lose this series, and I'm hoping they do, obviously, should Mike Budenholzer still have his job with Milwaukee?
Should he? No. Should he? I just think just because of what happened in that Nets series, because they were just shooting all those threes, and honestly, if it wasn't for Harden being on one leg and Kyrie being injured, they would have been out. But honestly, they were really only 2 inches away with a hobbled Harden, 2 inches away with KD's shot only being a 2-pointer from losing that series. So I would say that I think he should get fired. Will he though? No, I just think just because he got this, or just because this team is in the finals right now, and in Game 4, Giannis went down, and the Bucks won 2 games without their two-time MVP. I just think that he has more of like a cushion now with with the Bucks owners that he can go to them and be like, well, I got y'all a finals. So and with Giannis being injured, it's kind of like they are. I mean, they aren't the favorite to win this finals. So I would say that should he? Yes, in my opinion, he should. Just because of that, that's fine. Just because of that second round series alone. But will he? I just think unless they get swept and it's just bad. But even then, I still think that he has more of like a cushion of to really be their coach. Next season, just because they made the finals.
Neil, you know my distrust or dislike for Mike Budenholzer, but I'll try to keep that to a minimum. Should Mike Budenholzer return even if the Bucks have a terrible showing in these finals?
My personal opinion, I would say no. I think that when you look at this postseason and you look at, as Miles alluded to, there have been a lot of luck associated with some of the opponents that they would have had. In New Jersey Nets, they had their several injuries, and then KD misses. He literally, as Miles said, a couple inches away from getting ousted in Game 7. Then you have Trey Young, who injured himself, spraining his ankle. But the truth of the matter is that Bud's coaching, and I hear Justin, he's always in the group chat talking about some questionable decisions that Bud makes, right? Yeah, so there are a lot of things that Bud does that makes me scratch my head. Some of his rotational schemes, especially in games, some of his decisions to not have the ball in Giannis's hand or Chris Middleton. Oh my God, Chris's hands. Wow, words are really hard. But yes, it really is a struggle. It seems like it's a struggle for Bud at times. I think that the Atlanta Hawks series showed that. I think the Atlanta Hawks, while they were young and up and coming, they really shouldn't have been a problem as much as they were, or it shouldn't have come down to Trey Young's ankles stepping on a referee. I think that Bud has the team that he should have easily had. I don't want to say an easy ride, but it should not have been as difficult as it was. Um, so yeah, I think that anything short of a championship, Bud may go. Now, I understand where Miles is coming from, where that if Giannis doesn't play or certain things go, like if it goes to Game 7 or whatever, and they lose, or Game 6 and they lose, lose kind of respectively, Bud may retain his job with ownership. But I think at this point, when you look at this season and you look at where the shortcomings would have come from, like everything top to bottom, we know Giannis can't shoot. We know that Chris Middleton, as great as he is the closer, but and sometimes he can disappear from the stat sheet and in critical situations. We know that Brook Lopez and some of the other bigs are just there sometimes for background decoration to make sure that they have bodies to throw at whoever comes to the ring. We know Drew Holiday is great, but he too offensively can sometimes disappear. So those things we know, but I think if we had a better if the Bucks had a better coach, I think that they wouldn't have the coach would be able to utilize their pieces a bit better in certain critical situations. It almost looks like when Bud is forgive this pun, but when they are kind of behind the eight ball or there's a bit of pressure or the other team is coming back, they look like they're in headlights. You know what I mean? So it really is head scratching sometimes to see a man with such weapons allow teams to come back and allow teams to have the edge in certain situations. So I think Bud would be fired. I think especially if it is a convincing beatdown like a sweep, I think Bud is gone. I think Giannis would be, because I can feel that Giannis can taste the championship. He can feel the Larry O'Brien in his hands. And I think that if he doesn't get it this year, especially if it comes down to a sweep or blowouts or anything like that, I think he's gonna request like, yo, it's either Bud or me. And I don't think Giannis can do that, but I mean, I would not blame him because he needs that championship. Even though I don't agree with Dwayne, I can sense that Giannis is feeling the pressure to get there. Especially, you don't know how this league goes. You don't know how teams structure. They're a small market team. As much as they're big now and they're happening now, that can easily change with contracts and with injuries and with trades and the business side of the NBA. So I think Giannis wants it sooner rather than later, and he wants to give himself the best opportunity possible to do it in the Bucks.
Same question, Dwayne. If the Bucks should lose and lose terribly, should Coach Bud keep his job?
Coach Bud has benefited to this point in his career with Milwaukee from what I like to call the Jason Garrett effect. The Dallas Cowboys, another team I absolutely despise. The Dallas Cowboys, year in and year out, their fans, every year, this is our year, we're going to the Super Bowl. Every year, they stink. And it's not because of the talent, it's because of the coaching. Coach Budenholzer has been, so far in his career in Milwaukee, one of the best regular season coaches in the National Basketball Association. There's no denying that. But when it gets to the postseason, he just crumbles. Mike Budenholzer, unfortunately, whether the Bucks win the chip or they don't win the chip, whether they get swept or they do the sweeping, Mike Budenholzer is going to be the coach of the Milwaukee Bucks next season, simply because he's going to go into his meeting that they have every year at the end of the season, and he's going to say, look, I got you to the finals. Give me some more time. And that's how it's going to work. It's the same. It works the same as when you go to the NFL coach who, star player goes down. And you're like, look, we would have had a much better season. For example, the coach of the Giants, whose name I don't know off the top of my head.
Jason Garrett, or
well, he's the offensive coordinator, but the actual head coach. He's gonna have his meeting, or he already had his meeting, and he still has a job because Saquon Barkley tore his ACL. Mike Budenholzer is sitting pretty, because if he wins the finals with Giannis missing at least 1 or 2 games, he has a job. If he loses the finals, it's because Giannis missed 1 or 2 games. He still has a job. So should he lose his job? 100%. I don't think Coach Bud is going to be the answer coaching wise to get the Bucks to a chip. But should the Bucks win the chip this season, again with Giannis missing, potentially game 1, maybe even game 2, depending on how tonight goes, he's going to have a job. And if they lose, he goes to me like, look, we didn't have Giannis for 2 games. I still got you to the finals. We still, put up a fight, but I can only do so much because we were in a 2-0 hole without Giannis. And he's going to buy more time. So, whether any of us think he should be the coach or not, odds are when the 2021 season tips off, Coach Budenholzer will be on the sideline with the bald spot right here and the hair, and he'll be not making adjustments, and he'll be letting Giannis continue to airball free throw, Euro step all over the place, and do this and pretend like he's the good boy, and then they'll get to the playoffs and they'll have a good run, and then we'll be having this same conversation in a year's time. I'll be back here and I'll be continuing to hate on Giannis and the Bucks, and it'll just continue to be that way.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Miles and Dwayne, and it could go on and on because I don't think there is a person who dislike Coach Bud's style more than me. Reality is, he can look at the owners and say, "Oh, Joe Judge was the name that you were looking for, Dwayne, the coach of the New York Giants."
Joe
But
Judge.
the reality is, Coach Bud can lean on the fact that no team has won more regular season games than the Milwaukee Bucks for the last 3 seasons. He is going to see that if we lose this finals and when we lost against Miami in the second round, that Giannis Antetokounmpo was injured both times, and when he wasn't injured, he reached the Eastern Conference Finals and then the NBA Finals. The reality is this team is not going to get any further with a man who does not make any in-game adjustments or does not make adjustments from game to game, who does not change his style to attack clear weaknesses like James Harden walking around on one leg or Trae Young on a busted ankle. This man is not a playoff coach, but circumstances are that because of James Harden and Kyrie Irving's injury, because then of his own player being injured in Giannis Antetokounmpo, he's just going to buy himself time that he does not deserve, and he's here in the finals. And who's to say what if Milwaukee does pull this off without Giannis? Well, you can't fire a guy that won a title, right? Unless you are Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys. I could go on and on and on, but Martian and Neil would tell me that we are strapped for time. This is something I will get to next time because I do love to get at Mike Budenholzer. But who we should not get at, or let's look at the other side. Sorry, awful segue. Sorry. The Phoenix Suns. This is the team 2-3 years ago was arguably the worst team in the entire league. And now, all of a sudden, this team is now in the NBA Finals for the first time since 1993. So, Neil, as the other oldster on this show, I'll start with you. Of everyone in the organization, to your mind, who deserves the most credit for this fantastic turnaround?
Well, I'm gonna go with my guy James Jones. Yeah, I mean, he was on our show, and he spoke very eloquently and very reassuredly about what he didn't give us the plans. He didn't, kind of give us the play by play of what he plans to do, but he did speak with confidence in terms of what he has planned and what the Phoenix Suns as an organization stand for and what they're striving to attain. With pieces like DeAndre Ayton and Devin Booker especially, right? Monty Williams he spoke very highly of, so you can tell that there was always that plan. But to have the pieces around him, bringing in Jay Crowder, who is say what you want about Jay Crowder. Jay Crowder is a dog. He gets after it on offense and defense, and while he may disappear and he's not necessarily having a very good offensive postseason, he is a man that can give you buckets and give you that 3-pointer. He is very more than adequate on defense. Having players like Cameron Payne, having players like even backup players like Sarich and just filling out the roster. And then obviously bringing in Chris Paul. I think he has been very instrumental and he steadied the course. And you can tell he had this game plan. Probably not Chris Paul, but he had this game plan and he kind of was always one step ahead. So I do agree. I think Justin and I talked about this off camera. James Jones will have to be that the real mastermind for this whole thing. Monty Williams is a great coach. Don't get me wrong. I love Monty Williams. He has done a lot with very little over the last few seasons, but you can see glimpses of it, especially like last year in the bubble. They had that amazing end to their season, and you saw it. Devin Booker is that stud. He comes from the school of Kobe Bryant. He has the hunger, the desire, and that killer instinct to execute, especially late in games. DeAndre Ayton, even though a lot of people thought that Justin would say he takes too many fadeaways. Another friend of ours who's a diehard Phoenix Suns fan, Mario Loki, he would say that sometimes he plays a bit soft, needs to play more back to the basket. But DeAndre Ayton is playing really well, being very aggressive in gathering offensive rebounds, protecting the paint, and giving you steady offense, particularly in the pick and roll situation. So, just steadying the course with when he didn't have much, and then bolstering the roster when opportunity presents itself. It has to be James Jones for me, who is the sole responsible person for this turnaround.
Miles, do you agree? Is it James Jones or is it Monty Williams, CP3, Devin Booker? Is it somebody else other than James Jones?
No, I do think James Jones, he did a phenomenal job with this Suns team, but I would say Monty Williams, I feel like is the key. Now, the media, ESPN, Fox Sports, all of them, those talk about Chris Paul, this, Chris Paul, that. And I do think Chris Paul has given the Suns, I mean, if it wasn't for Chris Paul, the Suns would not be in this position. But I do think that his impact is a little bit overstated, and they're not giving enough credit to this, to this Suns team and with their coaching staff. And Monty Williams, I mean, in that Eastern Conference Finals game 2, I feel like if the Suns come back and win this finals, I mean, we can look back at that game 2 of that Eastern Conference Finals like one of the best play calls of the history of the playoffs. I mean, with 1.1 seconds left, down a point, the only really, I mean, what matter of fact, yeah, and he ends up throwing a lob, or he ends up drawing up a play to throw up a lob to DeAndre Ayton, and they end up stealing a game in game 2. I just feel like that was another reason how well, matter of fact, this Suns team won 2 games without Chris Paul, in the conference finals. So I think that I think Chris Paul's impact is a little bit overstated. And I think that there isn't enough credit to go around. I feel like there isn't enough people giving credit to this Phoenix Suns team, and specifically Monty Williams, because this team has done well. Even in the first round, Chris Paul goes out early in the first game against the Lakers, and they actually go ahead and win game 1. If they happen to lose game 1, you never know. Could the Lakers, come back or whatever? But you never know. So I would say that Monty Williams is definitely the guy that I would say has the most, has given the Suns the most, the most impact this postseason. And I would say that he's that guy. Even though Chris Paul, everybody's talking about him, I think Monty Williams is the guy.
Dwayne, do you agree? Who is the person who should take most of the credit for Phoenix's quick turnaround?
I mean, I agree. I think James Jones. I think Monty Williams. I think Devin Booker. I think we can all agree here that Devin Booker is a superstar. Yes. Devin Booker is, if he's not a superstar, he's getting close. Devin Booker's the one guy over the last couple of seasons that through the in terms of stayed with their team through the bad. Look at Kyrie. He didn't like being LeBron's Robin, so he left Cleveland. You look at Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant didn't want to be in OKC anymore, so he went to Golden State. And then when he wasn't getting the love he felt he deserved in Golden State, he left Golden State and ended up going to Brooklyn. James Harden wasn't happy with Houston. He forced his way out of Houston this season and ended up in Brooklyn. He left OKC to go be buddies with James Harden. Well, that didn't work out. They divorced just as soon as they got married. Now he's in DC. You look at Devin Booker. Devin Booker stayed. I mean, of course, there are other stars in the league that have stayed through the thick and the thin, like a Bradley Beal in DC or a Damian Lillard in Portland. But in terms of, continually, let's say, Devin Booker's kind of been like an afterthought through all this, which I think is kind of shocking. I mean, when you look at the Suns, a lot of people, again, as you mentioned, as Miles mentioned, they want to give all the credit to CB3, and he deserves the credit. But we have to remember who was there in the beginning, and the guy that's been there from day one has been Devin Booker. Do I think that Devin Booker deserves all the credit? No, I don't. But Devin Booker has continuously improved. He has continuously been the best player on this team, I would say, with an exception of this season. I think you can make the argument that Chris Paul has been the best player on this team throughout the course of this season and into the postseason. But Devin Booker has consistently been the face of this franchise, which was, as Justin mentioned earlier, not all that long ago, like the laughingstock of the league. So to stick through all that, just for the sole purpose of, wanting to win basketball games, wanting to get in a position to potentially win a championship. Here we are about 2 hours away from, tipping off the first game of his quest to win a championship. I think you have to look at Devin Booker and realize that Devin Booker's input, hated and undervalued, carries a lot of weight and how, how well the Suns have been. He is their franchise player. He's been playing like their franchise player since he's been.
So I'll say no one is wrong. But in then saying no one is wrong, then it has to be James Jones. And I'll explain why. Because every single factor or facet of this team's success has James Jones' fingerprint on it. So if you want to give CP3 a lot of credit for the turnaround in Phoenix, guess who brought him in? None other than James Jones. If you say Jay Crowder is such a great playoff performer in that he's helped Utah get to playoffs, he helped Miami get to the NBA Finals last season. He, was a key member of not Rockets teams. He's been a key member on Boston Eastern Conference Finals teams. That again is James Jones. DeAndre Ayton's quick turnaround or surprising development in this postseason. Guess who drafted him? James Jones. If you want to say, well, Monty Williams is a great coach who has established a culture. Guess who brought in Monty Williams? James Jones. Like, as Neil said, and this is a shameless plug for the show, he was on the show and he told us last year, this team is going to turn around and people will be surprised when they do it. And that starts with a vision at the top, because typically when these things happen, you can't look any further than the top of an organization. And the reason I know that this is not a surprise or a fluke, just look at James Jones' career itself. This is a guy, obviously with the help of LeBron James, has been to 7 straight NBA Finals. He's never in his career in the NBA played on a losing team, and he missed the playoffs just once in his entire 14-year playing career. This is a guy who understands what it is to win. And clearly he has had his fingerprints all over the culture of Phoenix Suns. I may not have drafted DeAndre Ayton first. There's a certain guy named Luka Doncic up there. But okay, he decided I'm going to take the big. And now that big is paying off the playoffs. He went for Chris Paul when a lot of people thought that this was the end of Chris Paul. And here you go. Chris Paul may or should have deserved some MVP votes in certain people's estimation. Monty Williams, he hires the coach. A lot of people were looking at bigger names, but he brought in the guy who should have won NBA Coach of the Year this year. All of this is James Jones, Jay Crowder, who has helped all of these other teams on magical playoff runs. He brings them in. This is James Jones, and to look further than him, to me, would discredit the job that he has done. So, guys, and I know Neil has a lot of projects to do otherwise.
So
we're gonna have to.
No, we good, man. We good. We could go for another 15, 20 minutes, man. Let's finish, because this is good stuff.
Good stuff. I don't want to keep you much longer.
No, we good.
But since you're saying good, let's get to who needs game one more. So I'll quickly start with you, Miles. Who needs game one more of these two teams in this finals matchup?
The Suns need it. I mean, look, I just don't think, and it's another reason why I don't think the Bucks should play Giannis. But I just think, you know what, the Suns need this, because if they don't get game one, I'm not saying the series is going to be over, but then that brings home court back to the Bucks, and the Bucks are a great home team, especially in the playoffs, in the regular season as well. But they're a great home team all around. So I would say that the Suns need this way more than the Bucks need to get game one, specifically just because the Bucks are a great home team, and that's exactly why I just don't think Giannis should play in game one. I think they should rest him, honestly, till game three, till he's almost 200%, or if not like 90 or 80%. So I would say definitely the Suns have the most pressure on them to win game one.
Dwayne, do you agree? Do you think that Phoenix needs game one more, or is it the road team in this scenario?
I think it's the Bucks, not because I'm down on Giannis, but because I think. And I said this to Miles, and again, shameless plug, show coming out in like an hour. Go check it out. I said, on that show that Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday, Brooke Lopez, really the supporting cast, and I even said it earlier today, this is a team that without Giannis could make the playoffs. Would they be a threat to win the chip? No, but in the Eastern Conference, this is the team that could snag an 8th seed, snag a 7th seed. Chris Middleton is phenomenal at home. He is absolutely outstanding when he's playing in Pfizer form. What needs to happen in order for the Bucks to, really dominate this series at home the way I think we all expect them to is the team has to get into a rhythm. And if Giannis sits out game 1 and 2, you have a situation where they can get into a rhythm. Now, do I think that the Bucks need to win game one more? I don't think so. I think the Suns need to win game one more. I think it's nice to, it's important that the Suns hold home court advantage because this is a phenomenal team at home. But just as great as the Bucks are at home, they're not really that good on the road. They're not a terrible team on the road, but they weren't an exceptional team on the road this season. And so for the Bucks, winning game one not only instills confidence that they could potentially win game two or maybe, a game five if it gets to that point in Phoenix. But again, you're instilling the confidence in your shooters, in the Chris Middletons, in the Drew Holidays and the Brook Lopez's of the world, so that when Giannis does return back to the lineup, ideally in game three, back at home in Milwaukee, whether the series is tied 1-1, whether you're up 2-0 or down 0-2, it doesn't matter. If you can get your team in a rhythm, win, lose, or draw in these first two games, come game three, your team is much better suited to win, the rest of the series than they are if you just want to shove Giannis into the lineup tonight. I think it's best that Giannis stays away so that the Bucks can get that rhythm. And again, getting that rhythm is what they need. So I think the Bucks need game one more for the sole purpose of rhythm, chemistry, and just like it's a marathon, not a sprint. Giannis does not have to play tonight for the series. For the Bucks to win the series. There are potentially 7 games in this series. There's no need to rush him back.
Question, is it the road team in the Milwaukee Bucks or the Phoenix Suns who need game one more?
Well, if you're going on the premise that Giannis is not playing, I would say it's on Phoenix, right? I agree with both Miles and a bit of what Dwayne is saying. Because Phoenix, they're at quote-unquote full strength. If Giannis is not there, then that's even more impetus to beat the Bucks. Because if you can't beat them, don't let me say that. Don't let me say if you can't beat them without Giannis, you can't beat them with Giannis. But it kind of psychologically, you take a hit psychologically, right? If you have problems with them without Giannis, when Giannis comes, that is a problem. So I think Phoenix, not only for their morale, not only for their title aspirations and everything like that, they need to pull out a big one here, because Giannis, if he doesn't play tonight, he will come. Now, if Giannis were to play, I would say that probably same thing. You know what? Because if Giannis come back, he's not going to be 100%. I think that I do agree with Dwayne. He said that he should rest until, I don't know if I would give it till game 3, but you know what? You just need to steal a game in Phoenix, and then you can hopefully make a series out of it come game 3 when Giannis comes back. So I do agree that the Phoenix Suns, they need to kind of to show up and prove in tonight's game. They need to be quite dominant to send a statement or a message that, yeah, you can need all your deer to beat us. You can need all your, Giannis. You need all of them. You need, bring back Oscar Robertson. You need all of these guys to beat us. Because without that, I think it's going to kind of, especially some of the younger guys on Phoenix, they're going to be like, we really belong here? Can we really hang? You know what I mean? So that's my take. I think Phoenix needs to take it, and I think they need to be very convincing tonight.
I'm going to go with Milwaukee just by the fact of numbers alone. And the reason I say the pressure's on Milwaukee to take game 1, forgetting Giannis Antetokounmpo's injury, the reality is in a 7-game series, you're going to have to win as the road team. You're going to have to win one game. You can't win a series without winning one game in Phoenix. So the pressure's on you to win that game. Like, you only have 3 games at home, and 3 games does not win you the series. And on top of that, as I mentioned earlier, Phoenix has been the best road team in the league this year, and they have closed out all 3 of their prior series on the road. They finished Lakers on the road, they finished Denver on the road, and they finished the Clippers on the road. So the numbers tell me Phoenix is going to win one in Pfizer Forum. That being said, that is even more pressure on you, especially if Giannis Antetokounmpo does not play. And Phoenix is already a good home team with arguably right now the best fans in all of NBA. And I'm not just saying that as a Phoenix Suns fan. Like, you've seen how the Suns, you've seen how the arena has been rocking when the Suns are at home. I think all of the pressure right now is on Milwaukee. Granted, there is pressure, as the guys alluded to, Neil and Miles, because of Giannis' injury. So it's like, well, you are favored now, so you really should have to do it. But the reality is Milwaukee has to tell themselves, this is a really, really good road team that does not fear playing in anyone's building. Because imagine you went into the Lakers. I mean, this is the Lakers team, yes, without Anthony Davis. But you went into Staples Center and finished LeBron there. You went into Denver, a very, very hard place to play just because of the altitude that teams don't get accustomed. They went to Denver and won both games and finished them out. And then the Clippers, when everyone thought that, LA stole momentum by winning the closeout game in game 5 and went back home, they were like, okay. They went wire to wire and won against a veteran Clippers team against Staples Center. This tells me they do not fear anyone in anyone's arena. And if I'm Milwaukee, I'm telling myself to buy Giannis more time. You're going to have to win game 1 because, as Miles and Neil and Dwayne correctly said, you win with game 1 without Giannis, you can then afford to rest him for game 2 and bring him back for game 3. And that's why I feel Milwaukee is under pressure tonight to win game 1 if Giannis doesn't play. So, guys, let's close up quickly because we all want to get ready, get our popcorn, get our burgers, get our drinks for tonight's game 1. So, Miles, I'm going to hit you first. The keys to victory, who wins tonight? Who wins the series and why?
I have the Suns in 6. I think the Suns are. I think specifically in game 1, it's going to be a blowout. I see you with your Suns jersey, but yeah, I have the Suns in 6. I think that Milwaukee will defend home court. But I think that I think in game 5 and game 6. A matter of fact, I think the Suns, they have won each series on the road, and I think that they'll do the same thing, and they'll win it, and they'll win the NBA Finals on the road. And I just don't think with with a Giannis that's not going to be at 100%. I heard that he's in his pregame warmups right now. They're trying to see if he can, play tonight. But regardless of what happens, I just don't think he'll be 100%. I think even with Giannis at 100%, I still wouldn't even pick the Bucks over them. So I think this is really the Suns' finals to lose. This is Chris Paul's finals to lose. So I would have the Suns winning this one in 6 games.
Neil, be careful because I know you're a huge Pacific Division rival, the Lakers. Who wins this series and obviously the championship series and why?
Yeah, so you know what? I would like the Phoenix Suns to win. Yes, they are a rival, I know, just put it away. Nobody wants to see that family-friendly show. But yeah, seriously though, I do want to see Chris Paul get his championship. There's the tie-in with Devin Booker and the Kobe Bryant legacy. Yeah, Kobe's my guy, obviously as a Lakers fan. But yeah, in terms of when I look at both teams, when I look at the Bucks, I think Bud is a huge, huge problem for them in terms of coaching. I think Giannis not having a jumper is a problem. I do think that the Bucks do have the bodies to kind of keep DeAndre very busy and winded, and keep the forwards from the Phoenix Suns busy. But when I look at it, I just feel as though you can feel it, you can sense it that Phoenix is ready. Phoenix, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, Jay Crowder has that experience. You have Cameron Payne, who has been stellar behind Chris Paul. Chris Paul himself is ready. Monty Williams is getting the job done. I think that is going to come down mainly to coaching, and if it does that, it's going to be Phoenix in 6. So I have to agree with Miles. I think that the Bucks have it, but they're not as fully complete as the Phoenix Suns, if that makes sense. Because while they do have the bodies, I feel as though their bodies are not necessarily as capable on offense and defense as the Phoenix Suns. Again, Devin Booker is amazing. You have Mikal Bridges, who's playing really well. And I think the guys, I feel as though they ain't come to, as we have a saying in Barbados, they ain't come to drink milk. So I really do believe that they're not messing around. They're going to come and get the job done.
Dwayne,
I
Oh wait, you're breaking up a bit, Justin. So I assume the question is who the keys to victory.
If the question is the same, I'm gonna. Yeah.
Yeah, go Dwayne.
Okay. The Suns are gonna win in 6. But before I say what I have to say that's gonna make Justin go crazy, what number jersey are you wearing, Justin? What numbers on that jersey?
Oh, love it.
No, wait. What numbers on that jersey, Justin?
Yeah, Justin, what?
Number 2? Okay. Is that a Langston Galloway jersey? Or is that an Eric
I
Bledsoe
love
jersey?
it.
Unfortunately, it's an Eric Bledsoe jersey, but
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. That's what I thought. All right. All right.
I love Dwayne. I
No,
told you
but
Dwayne was perfect for this show. I told you.
I am going to say, though, and this is going to shock Justin to his very core, is I actually want the Bucks to win the finals this year.
Oh, wait, hold on. Time out.
Wait a second. Wait a second.
What?
No. There is good reason. The only reason why I want the Bucks to win the finals this series is so that bad man Aaron Rodgers can get an NBA Finals championship ring. That's really all it is. I just want Aaron Rodgers to have a finals ring. That's really it. That's really it. If you thought I was gonna say anything about Giannis, you're crazy. No. I want the Bucks to win so that Aaron Rodgers could have a Super Bowl ring and a finals ring. You know what I mean? I just think that'd be beautiful. Chef's kiss on the legacy. No, but in all seriousness though, Justin, we got to get you a jersey for a player that's actually on the team this season. And I do think that the Suns will win the finals. I think it's going to come down to 3 things. Number 1 is going to come down to the fact that Chris Paul has played near perfect basketball all postseason. I don't think he's had a game yet where he's had more than 5 turnovers in the ball game. He's had, if I could, off the top of my head, I think he's had about 5 or 6 games with like 0 turnovers. He had 41 points and 0 turnovers in the closeout game against the Clippers just the other night. So like Chris Paul has been playing basically perfect basketball. Monty Williams is going to continue to show why he's a better coach than Coach Bud. And unless Coach Bud decides that he's going to start making adjustment, which is like a part of his job description. I don't know if he read that when he was filling out the application. Like it says on the job description that you have to make adjustments. It's how you win basketball games. And if Coach Bud isn't going to make the necessary adjustments to win the basketball games, then the Bucks aren't going to win. So I agree with Miles. Suns in 6. But we definitely need to get Justin a jersey for a player that's actually on the team and not Eric Bledsoe.
Amen.
I would appreciate that. And to that point, because we got rid of Eric Bledsoe, the Bucks got rid of Eric Bledsoe, and both teams are in the finals. So take that for whatever it's
Poor Eric
worth.
Bledsoe. Oh.
And I mean,
Trash talk Eric Bledsoe while you're wearing his jersey.
it's the name on the front, not the one on the back. It's
I
the
don't
name
even
on the
wear
front.
that jersey anymore.
Oh.
When I get a Devin Booker jersey,
Hold on a minute. I dare you to wear that jersey out in town tonight.
I've worn it all. I've not watched.
He's probably slept in that jersey. He's probably slept in that. He hasn't taken that jersey off since I was on the show last. I can promise you
I'm
that.
telling
He
you,
had the
I
jersey
put
when I
on
was-
this jersey. I put on this jersey at my in-laws' 4th of July celebrations. All while the Bucks were finishing off in 6, and all of them were, going around saying, "Suns in 6, Suns in 6." So I mean, we've said it all show. I've said, the reasons why the Suns will win. So I don't have much to say other than the Greek freak, lightning streak. The sky's looking bleak. Suns in 6.
Listen, I would just want to tell you, Justin, you're always welcome back home. If you get put out, I understand you're in Milwaukee. We can see your background and everything like that. You always have a place here, buddy. You come back home.
Nah, it's fine. They can't convert me. They're trying to get me to support the Brewers, but that's not happening. The Packers are the only Wisconsin team. Maybe I'll trade the Wisconsin Badgers in college football, but that's as far as it goes. So, guys, yes, Neil has another podcast to get to, so we won't keep it all for. Typically, I close out and let people know what they have, but Neil has to rush off the set
Let
right
him
now.
plug the stuff, man. We can't do that. You gotta let the guys
Well,
plug the stuff.
sorry. Well, Miles, plug yourself. How can we find you and what you have next?
You can find me at Real Talk with MJ on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, all that jazz. So man, I appreciate you for having me on your show. Of course, definitely got to have you guys all on my show as we recap the finals and all that. But man, I appreciate you.
Always, Miles. And me and your family on this show, but still plug your stuff, how to find you, what you got coming.
Go Talk Podcast. You can follow me on Instagram at GTP Marcus, YouTube, Go Talk Podcast. As I've said like 3 times over the course of the show, and this is actually an extreme sport. I was able to successfully record, publish, edit, and process a YouTube episode for you lovely people. It'll be up in 40 minutes, featuring the one and only Real Talk with MJ. We broke down the Eastern Conference Finals and did our own little predictions heading into Game 1, so definitely check it out. Again, I love being on the show. Being on the show is great. Justin's been on the show before. Miles has been on the show before. Neil, you are more than welcome to come on the show as we continue to break down the finals. But it's always a pleasure to be here. I appreciate it. And just like Justin has to crap on Sam Darnold, I'm always going to find a way to crap on Giannis Antetokounmpo. It's just how. So yeah.
So before we say no, Neil also has a Senate podcast, and they deal with all things relationship from the man's perspective, because it does seem in this life that, men don't get the respect and for that they do. So please do, when you have a chance, on Facebook and Instagram, go check out the Senate podcast. But for Neil Hoyt, Miles Johnson, Dwayne Marcus, I am Justin of this Justin. Please enjoy your Game 1 of the finals when the Suns take a 1-love lead tonight. And you can catch us every Monday right here at the same space and on Thursdays. So for the gang, I am saying good night and enjoy your NBA finals.
Good night, everybody. Peace and love.
Everybody.
I don't have a mark on my face, and I upset Johnny Liston, and I just turned 22 years old. I must be the greatest. I told the world, I talk to God every day. The God's with me, ain't nobody here just the same. I shook up the world. I shook up the world. I shook up the world. I shook up the world.
I said, can I be a legend? Search your soul and answer me this question. Do you think I have what it takes to be great, but still be humble and learn from my mistakes? Shit.